Now, we have a new set of Carina's challenges coming out on February 15th, and these challenges are pretty cool because they are made by content creators such as Legacy, Karate Mike, and Fintech, and additionally, the final prize is a selector for either 7-star Spider-Man 2099, Masacre, or Stark Spidey. So that leads to the question of who is the best pick out of those champions? And we're going to find that out in this video. So first things first, we have Masacre. Now I think Masacre is a really good pure attacker. He is mostly used in like battlegrounds, but if he is tactic, then he does a lot of work in Alliance War too, so he does have use in pretty much the most competitive pieces of content. And by the way, these three characters are picked by like the best of the best, right? So they're going to be like mainly competitive content focused champions, and Masacre is one of those champions. Now, he has access to Ignition, Incinerate, Ability Accuracy Reduction, he has a massive SP2, and he also just has base block penetration. So he is just a really strong attacker, whether it's like with the Incinerates or just through the block. But here's the big thing. Does he need his dupe? Not in the slightest. It is a pretty like mid signature ability. Like, it offers very little to the character overall, and he is just completely fine without it. He is the exact same champion with or without it, so it is like pretty much unnecessary by all means. So that is like the biggest advantage of Masacre here. But here is some gameplay of Masacre. This is a rank 5 Masacre, and it's in the content creator beta. And by the way, all these champions are going to be like low sig, but I wish I could just like unawaken them, right, to show like the unduped versions of them, but I can't, so this is the next best thing. And yeah, Masacre in these short matchups is just insane, of course. Battlegrounds is his playground, and he is just so dominant there for the most part, and he is just such a powerhouse when it comes to damage output. Of course, the utility is like on the lighter side because he pretty much just has Incinerate and like some ability accuracy reduction. But yeah, like Masacre is Masacre because of the damage output, right? And like the burst damage. And honestly, sometimes damage is utility. And for Masacre, his damage output is good enough to where it can be deemed utility because he is just insanely fast, right? So that's why Masacre, I think, is a massive game changer as a 7-star. And personally, I thought that he would never become a 7-star because I thought he was too good to be a 7-star champion, but apparently not. And yeah, he is just a dominant attacker. I want to see how he shapes up like against the other skill attackers as 7-stars. For example, Black Cat, who else is a very strong attacker, Shang-Chi even. But when it comes to speed, hardly anyone is as fast as Masacre, right? That is his main selling point. It is the speed, right? It is the speed, and I guess like the ease of use as well, because you just hit the opponent, you hit their block, that's pretty much it, and you just win because of it, right? It is very fun to do. This character is also insanely fun as well, keep in mind. So yeah, he is just a massive win all around. But now it is time for Spider-Man 2099. Now, this champion is a bit of an odd one, right? I know Karate Mike loves him a ton, and he had a weird start into the game because when he first came out, pretty much no one liked him except for Mike. But after like Mike worked his magic, he is now a beloved character, and he's used a lot in Alliance War. So he is a pure attacker, obviously, just mainly used for that attack value. He is used in, like I said, Alliance War, but sometimes sees use in Battlegrounds depending on the meta. And he has access to Rupture, Rupture Burst, Buff Immunity, Physical Vulnerability, Wither, Slow, Exhaustion, built-in Dex, and Resistance Up. So as you can see, it is a lot of utility, right? Like, it is just a massive kit, a well-designed kit as well. It is just really good stuff. But does he need the dupe? This is where it gets a bit, bad for Spider-Man here, because it is heavily favored. It is a massive game changer because Spider-Man's biggest issue is his damage output, right? Not saying it's bad, it's just like it is the main point of concern for Spider-Man 2099. And what helps his damage output a lot is that max sig. So you have like Spider-Man here, who is a really strong utility character, and once you like give him max sig, he becomes a good utility character with really good damage output too, so he becomes like this absolute monster of a champion. Now, I think he is still a pretty good character unawakened because he still has so much utility, right? And of course his damage output is still like not bad, it's like just there pretty much. But yeah, Spider-Man 2099 I think will do a ton for you if you are an Alliance War player, but then again, I don't know, because I think the officers would favor like a max sig Spider-Man. It's like, it's a bit odd, right? I think it's a good pick by Karate Mike, but then again, I don't think anyone's gonna like favor him unless they really like the champion, which to be fair, this champion is very likable, so I see that happening for sure. But if you want to pick the best option, I think Spider-Man 2099 might not be it, because I think he is fantastic. Obviously, he is a great utility character, but if you want the most out of Spider-Man, I think you're better off ascending your 6-star character, right? Because I think even a rank 3 unawakened Spider-Man 2099 will not be like greater than the ascended 6-star max 6 Spider-Man 2099. But that's just how I feel about it. I think that he is still a really good character, obviously, but yeah, it's a bit tough, right? It's a bit tough to like make the call here, but yeah, here is some gameplay of him. Of course, in like these longer fights, he does go pretty hard because of his slow that counts as 4 debuffs, which means he does a lot of extra damage output on the SP2. So yeah, it is a very nice time here. And honestly, if you pick this character, I don't blame you. He is just so cool, right? He is like one of the coolest champions animation-wise and just design-wise overall. So if you pick him, you know what, good on you. That is a great pick in my opinion, because he is a good champion, obviously. Like, all these characters are good. Like, FinTech, Karate Mike Legacy, they know what they're doing, obviously, right? So they know what to pick, and yeah, this guy is a utility option, I feel like. He won't be like the best damage dealer, but I think out of the 3 characters, he does have the most utility by far, because yeah, just look at this kit, man. Buff immune, has wither, has access to slow as well, has a ton of debuffs, and just has like, you know, that safety net with the anti-dex. It is just really good stuff. And also, once he's ramped up, the damage output is pretty nice. So yeah, I think overall his kit is just really cool. But yeah, the fight's almost over here. We have pretty much all our debuffs up, so we can just shop another massive SP2, and that will just do it for this fight. And yeah, like in these longer matchups, he is pretty fun for sure, but the fight time isn't all that. Of course, like in Alliance War, when you're boosted, you do some pretty great damage output, and like in the shorter health pools and like Battlegrounds, it's pretty good too. But now we have the final character, which is Stark Spidey. Now Stark Spidey, I think, is Legacy's pick, because Legacy loves this guy so much. He is like the biggest Spider-Man fan, so he is a pure attacker. He is used in primarily Battlegrounds. I'll be honest, I just don't see him used anywhere else besides Battlegrounds. Not even like questing, right? Not even Alliance War. Just pretty much nowhere else except for Battlegrounds, and that's fine, right? Like, Battlegrounds is a really big piece of content, but he also has access to taunt, power drain, poise, evade, shock, stun, and ensnare. So it's a pretty decent kit for like a pretty old champion. Like, the taunt is really good, the power drain is also pretty massive, the evade, the auto evade is just insane sometimes. But here's the issue, his dupe is also heavily favored, right? Because it is just a massive bonus for him. It gives him increased taunt duration, which is of course really good. And additionally, per poise charge, you have increased crit rating. So it does a lot. It really just does do a lot for the champion, and I feel like without it, you'll still be fine, but you'll notice like a pretty noticeable damage output decrease because of that crit rating like that you're missing out on. It is just doing a lot for him, especially in like the matchups where challenger rating and like crit res is a thing, so keep that in mind that you will have that disadvantage for like those matchups. Now some gameplay, and Stark Spidey is just so much fun still. Honestly, one of the most fun champions to play in the game. I enjoy the playstyle. I might be like in the minority here, but I do enjoy the playstyle of just dashing back, getting the dexes, just being poised with it, getting those poised charges, and just dishing out some massive damage. I'm a huge fan of it. I think this character is really fun to play, and he's also really rewarding too. But keep in mind right here, we're getting all these crits because we have the awakened ability, and the taunt is like a lot longer too because of the awakened ability. So yeah, you miss out on those two things, and those two things are just really big for the character. But like, that was also insanely fast too, right? That was such a good fight right there. And of course, I'm not the best Dark Spidey player. I'm not good at like any of these champions, to be honest, but I thought I'd still show some gameplay because they are all really fun to play. But I think Dark Spidey takes the cake when it comes to like, you know, fun. And yeah, of course Dark Spidey has his issues, like for example the block damage sometimes, and like him being very unforgiving with this tiny health pool, but also he has that safety net with the evade. So yeah, like he has his pros and cons for sure, and he's also just a really fun champion, so I'm a fan of him. Honestly, I might pick Dark Spidey for myself personally, but we'll have to see how that turns out. But yeah, like the damage output is of course just really good, right? Some 25,000 crits there, like some 15,000 medium crits. But keep in mind, if he's unawakened, you won't crit that often, right? Like you'll still crit a lot because of his base crit rating, but it won't be as frequent as like you want it to be. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think he's gonna still do pretty good as a 7-star unawakened, but like I think the best champion, hold on, let this fight finish out first and I'll say my final thoughts. But yeah, the crits are just so good, and that fight was just so clean as well. But like I was saying, I think the best pick overall is Masacre. This champion, of course, is just so good unawakened. He is such a powerhouse in like Battlegrounds, but also sometimes Alliance War, and he is also just a great quester too. He pretty much just does it all, and he does it all really well unawakened. So yeah, I think if you want the best pick, it is Masacre, but if you want the most utility packed pick, it is Spider-Man 2099. And if you want like the fun pick, I think it is Dark Spidey. So all these champions have like a reason to be picked in my opinion. But yeah, let me know who you're picking as well. And yeah, that's about it for me.